All right, everyone. Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever it is that you are watching this. Happy Advent, and thanks for joining us here for the online edition of The Gathering. My name is Nick, and we are glad that you're taking a few moments to hang out with us here today. First of all, I want to apologize. We didn't have an online stream last week, and in large part, that was due to the fact that I got sick. So I was in Tennessee the week before and came home with a fever and was just feeling miserable and awful and terrible. And so we had a guest preacher who spoke in our in-person gatherings that Sunday, a guy named David Parks, a lovely human being, fantastic guy, and we were really thankful to have him. But unfortunately, we didn't get that transferred over here to the online space. So apologize for last week, but we're glad that you're here joining us this week. And if this is your first time getting to know this group a little bit, by way of introduction, we will just say that this is sort of a combined project or effort between two different churches. Zion Lutheran Church, which is an ELCA Lutheran church, and Pathways Church, which is a non-denominational independent church. And these two churches have been working on this project that we call The Gathering together for the better part of 2 years now. And we had different ways of doing things, different traditions. The ELCA church was very traditional and liturgical, and the non-denominational church was very non-traditional and not liturgical. But we discovered that the things that we had in common were so strong and so important that we felt like we could work through all the rest of that stuff. And so we created this thing called The Gathering, where we kind of blend some formal elements and some informal elements. And we're learning to appreciate sort of the history and the traditions of one another. And it's just been, frankly, a really beautiful experience. And we're in the process of just formalizing into one group because we've learned to appreciate one another so much. So that's a little bit about this group. And if you want to learn a little bit more about us, you can always go to our website at everettgathering.com. And if you go on there, you can read about our story a little bit. You can see some of the things that we're involved in. And I would particularly direct your attention to the core values area because those are the things that really drew these two communities to one another and kind of what we've built this whole thing on. So if you want to check that out, I know that would probably be helpful as you get to know this group a little bit. Now, the way we usually introduce ourselves, really beyond just the background story there, is to give you just kind of a vibe or an essence of who we are as a community, and really 2 words probably suffice for that. The first word is cautious, and the second is curious. Now, we are a cautious group in that many of us grew up in religious environments. Many of us grew up in church scenarios or going to churches and surrounded by religion. And we've definitely seen religion used in some ways that's beneficial and positive and helpful and even inspiring. Religion can be very beautiful. But many of us have also experienced a religion that is more exclusionary, toxic, harmful. And some of us personally, or those we know and love and care about, have been significantly harmed and hurt by religion, even religion with Jesus' name on it. So we find ourselves as a community being a little cautious about organized religion. In fact, some in our group would go so far as to say skeptical of organized religion. Now, I know what you're saying. That's kind of weird because this is a church, right? And so kind of by definition, you're an organized group of religious people. And you're right about that. That's true. We don't try to make any... we're not trying to hide that in any way, but we do think that there is something that's healthy about a choice to be a little cautious about organized religion if we are in fact going to be an organized group of religious people. Now, the other word we use to describe ourselves is curious, and by that we mean we like to ask a lot of questions, sometimes about things we don't know, but a lot of times about things that we do know. And the whole idea here is just that our general posture is one of humility about what it is we think we know. Because it turns out many of us had some core convictions, some things that we really believed, and over time discovered that we were dead wrong about those things. So we try to practice what it means to be unusually curious about one another. Because I probably have some things that might be useful for you to know, but really there's probably some things that you know, some life experience that you've had that I need to know as well. We've all got blind spots, and we all need an unusual curiosity about one another and about God, and so we spend a lot of time asking a lot of questions. So if either of those 2 words kind of resonates with you, then I would suggest that maybe this is a good group for you to continue to get to know. Now, what we're going to be doing here over the next few moments is sort of a miniaturized version of our in-person gathering. In our in-person gathering, we do some formal things and some informal things. We've got electric guitars and we've got a pipe organ and we've got all sorts of weird things that happen. But here in the online space, we've kind of miniaturized it down. We're going to have one song here. Billy, our worship leader, will come on the screen and he'll lead kind of one song here. And you can sing along if you like, or you can just let it play. It's fine. And then after that, we are going to jump in a new series here on Advent because it's the first Sunday of Advent today. And so we'll jump right into that and be talking about Advent. And then at the end of that, we always take a time to do communion together. Now, in our in-person gatherings, we take communion with one another each week. And in those in-person settings, we provide everything you need for that, which would be the bread and the cup. But here in the online space, we do want to make a time for communion, perhaps if you didn't have a chance to get somewhere to take communion today. But you'll need to provide the elements for yourself. So you'll need something for the bread, which could be a little piece of bread or maybe a little cracker would work. And then you'll need something for the cup, which could be a little bit of juice, or maybe you have some wine left over from last night's dinner. If you want to get those things on hand, we'll make a space at the end to take communion if you would like to participate in that. And then we'll wrap up everything with some announcements today. Okay, well, let's just get right to it. Billy's going to lead us in a song. It's not really overtly Christmassy today, although we will be getting into some of that here in the next couple of weeks. But Billy's going to lead us in a song, and then after that, I will see you right back here on the screen. Okay, see you in a few.
I've tried so hard to see it. Took me so long to believe it, that you choose someone like me to carry your victory. Perfection could never earn it. Give what we don't deserve it. You take the broken things and raise them to glory. You are my champion. Giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you've won. I am who you say I am. You crown me with confidence. I'm seated in the heavenly place, undefeated, with the one who has conquered it all. Now I can finally see it. You're teaching me how to receive it. So let all the striving cease. Oh, this is my victory. You are my champion. Giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you've won. I am who you say I am. You crown me with confidence. I'm seated in the heavenly place, undefeated, with the one who has conquered it all and all and all and all. The one who has conquered it all. Yeah. When I lift my voice and shout, everyone comes crashing down. I have the authority Jesus has given me. When I open up my mouth, miracles start breaking out. I have the authority Jesus has given me. When I lift my voice and shout, every wall comes crashing down. Giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you've won. I am who you say I am. You crown me with confidence. I am seated in the heavenly place, undefeated. By the power of your name, I am seated in the heavenly place, undefeated, with the one who has conquered it all. You are my champion. Giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you won, I am who you say I am. You crown me with confidence. I'm seated in the heavenly place, undefeated. By the power of your name, I'm seated in the heavenly place, undefeated, with the one who has conquered it all. I know who I am, 'cause I know whose I am. Hallelujah.
And we are waiting, right, to get back at it, to get back to life, to get out. Like, not like Halloween is gone and now let's do that. No, like, really, what are we waiting for? What are we waiting for? This guy named Gary Posner, a long time ago, wrote a beautiful song for Middle Church about waiting, like Esperando, like we're waiting for hope, waiting for waiting to stop being in between the now and the not yet. Like to really play with what are we waiting for? What are we expectant of? And can we think even about pregnant? What are we pregnant with? What's right here being gestated in us? I hope that Advent this year will push us all to be honest about what it means to wait for hope, to wait for the children of God to show themselves.
And what is bringing you hope today? What's saving you today?
My community, this place is so incredible. This community of young people singing on Zoom, this community of people like taking charge. Did you know that so-and-so lost their grandmother? Did you know that so-and-so's out of work? Generously sharing money together and time and resources. In this multi-ethnic, multi-racial, everybody's loved place. But my community is bigger than this. So also Stash Kotler, my Jewish friend at Bend the Ark, and also Valerie Kaur, my Sikh friend, and also William Barber, my Baptist black man friend. Like all of these pockets of resistance, I'm gonna call them, where people just doing love and justice. This, of course we're gonna make it. When I watch the resilience of these leaders, of course we're gonna make it through. It's what I feel.
All right, love that. Advent time is a time of waiting as we get into the Christmas season, and I really just can't even believe we're in the Christmas season again already. I mean, can you believe that? I mean, we're already back to all of the holiday stuff, and just this week got home, recovered from being sick, and then we started decorating the house for Christmas, and we were putting up the tree this weekend, and we were decorating and everything, and I looked at my wife and I was just like, didn't we just put all this away? It feels like I just remember us putting all the ornaments back in their little boxes and everything, and we were taking everything down, and here we are putting it up again. I mean, I just can't believe we're already back to that, but I love this time of year, I love the magic of the holiday season, the magic of Christmas. I love driving around and seeing the lights, and the radio stations take over, and it's all Christmas music for weeks and weeks, which is fun. And just the festivity of it all is just a lot of fun. And there's so much about this holiday that just really feels nostalgic, right? You just kind of remember what it was like being a kid. And when Christmas was just so magic back then. I remember being little, and when my sister and I were very little, I have two sisters, but I'm the oldest, and my next youngest sister, we would stay up late on Christmas Eve, and she and I would just kind of wait up, and we would try to stay up and catch a glimpse of Santa. And every year, as we would stay up late, we would fall asleep. I mean, we were pretty little, so I bet it wasn't even midnight, but that was way past our bedtime, right? And so we were trying to stay up late, but we would always fall asleep. And then in the morning, we would wake up, and there would be presents all under the tree. And we always wondered, how did they get there? I mean, darn it, we fell asleep again. We don't even know how they got there. But the more important question really quickly became, not how did they get there, but what is in them, right? I mean, that's what you want to know about the presents. Who cares how they got there? What is inside of these boxes? Because inside these boxes we knew were these treasures that we got to open. And hidden inside of these boxes were the treasures that were wrapped up in paper, wrapping paper, and bows. And so we just wanted to tear that paper off and see what was inside. But of course, you know how it is when you're a kid. You got to get your parents out of bed. They're not quite as excited as you are, right? And so we had to go in and wake them up, and get them out of bed, get my dad out of bed. And then we had to get everybody assembled in the living room. And we had to pass out all the presents from under the tree. And then finally, it was the time to tear open the gifts. It was the big reveal. It was a Christmas apocalypse. As we tore through all this paper, made a huge mess everywhere, and finally revealed inside each box was the treasure hidden within. A true Christmas apocalypse. Well, we're starting a new series here today for Advent, and we're calling it Christmas Apocalypse. All right? Now, when you think of apocalypse, you probably think of, that's what all our movies are. We say apocalyptic movies. It's going to be the end of the world, and there's destruction, but this isn't really that, right? This isn't a zombie-themed series or anything. It's not about the end of the world. In fact, it's sort of about the opposite, because that's not really what the word apocalypse means. In Greek, apokalypsis, it really means something more like the unwrapping of a present. Apocalypse is a revealing. That's what the word means. Apocalypse means to uncover, or to reveal, or to make known. And it's like this idea of you've got this gift, right? And there's something inside the box. It's already there with you. You just don't know what it is. And so it's not visible until you take off the wrapping paper and open the box, and all of a sudden you see what is there. That, taking away, removing the paper, that is an apocalypse. Or another image that I sometimes find helpful is the image of a stage curtain. It's like you're on Broadway, right? You're there to see a musical, and the stage curtain is closed, but then all of a sudden you start to hear the music play, right? And maybe some actors are talking, and it's all happening behind the curtain. You know something's there, but you can't see it yet. And then all of a sudden the music builds to crescendo, and then the curtains open, and then all of a sudden you see what has been there previously that you could hear, but you couldn't quite see. There's this big reveal moment, and that big reveal, that is an apocalypse, a revelation, an unveiling. And Christmas is an unveiling. It's an apocalypse. It's where we get to see a peek behind the curtain. It's a moment that reveals some things to us. It reveals some things to us about life and how it works. It reveals to us some things about the world. It reveals some things to us about ourselves. But maybe most importantly, Christmas reveals to us some very important things about God. And these are things that may have always been true, but now we are seeing it in a new way. It is a Christmas apocalypse. Now, okay, we don't often talk about apocalypse this way today, right? I mean, this isn't really how we talk about apocalypse. Like I said, we make apocalypse movies and they're all about the end of the world and destruction and zombies and all that type of thing. But this idea of unveiling is the way that people understood apocalypse at the very first Christmas. It was a way that most Jewish people viewed the world. And so it's not surprising that a lot of our Advent readings, especially the first ones, have a very apocalyptic feel to them. And that is true with the text that we have today. Now, before we read our text today, because it is so weird to us to read something that's apocalyptic and have an understanding in our mind of what apocalypse should mean, as opposed to maybe how Jewish people understood it in Jesus' day, I want to give you three kind of distinctives here about apocalypse. Three distinctives that you should know about apocalyptic that will help you as we make sense of this. Now, first of all, apocalyptic was a genre of literature. Apocalypse was a very specific genre of writing that was popular in first century Judaism. And now we only really have one example of this in the New Testament, but we do have one, and you're probably pretty aware of it. It's the weirdest one, right? It's Revelation. That one right at the very end of your New Testament is really a work that we would say is of the genre of apocalyptic. Now, you read it and everything's weird in there, right? There's dragons and there's all sorts of weird things in this book. It is a highly symbolic book. In fact, I would say that all of it is symbology. Now, we did a series on Revelation in the past, and we may do one again because it is a really beautiful example of resistance literature, of Christians putting out this material that is showing how to resist empire and live in the way of Jesus. But people ask me all the time, what part of Revelation is literal? And I always say, none of it. It's all symbol. It's a piece of resistance literature against the empire. And it uses creative imagination to reveal that even when it looks like Caesar rules everything, that nothing could defeat Caesar, there's more at work than what you see. Okay, so apocalyptic can be a genre, but apocalyptic can also be something found in brief sections in other compositions. Sometimes a writing will include a short apocalyptic section. Now, maybe the overall work itself is not of the genre of apocalyptic, but it will sometimes include a short section that picks up on some of the themes of the apocalyptic genre. Now, that's actually our Advent text for today, because the text that we're going to read today comes from Matthew's Gospel. Matthew's Gospel is the Gospel for this next year, year A in the lectionary cycle. It really focuses, each year focuses on one of the three synoptic Gospels. We just got done with Luke in year C. Now we're cycling back around to year A, and Matthew's Gospel will be the prominent one that we'll probably take a lot of look at here over 2026. But Matthew, as a gospel, is not exactly what we'd call an apocalyptic genre, okay? I mean, it doesn't read like Revelation, right? It's not all symbology. But within Matthew, we have a little section that we're going to read today that scholars have often called the little apocalypse. And it's included in various forms in all three of the synoptic gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, which are the three gospels that are most similar. There's some differences in each one of them, but each one of the synoptic gospels includes a section we'd call the little apocalypse, where Jesus says some things that have a very apocalyptic feel to them. And you'll notice that today when we read it. But the third distinction I really want to point out to you, and this is the one that's really most important, is that apocalyptic isn't just a genre or a section of some other type of writing. Apocalyptic is really, in large part, for our understanding today here, a worldview. It's not just a genre of literature, it's a lens through which one sees the world. It's a worldview. It's a way of perceiving reality. It's a way of making sense of what you see in front of you. Now, it's probably important for you to notice that the entire New Testament is written from an apocalyptic worldview. Okay, now not all of the New Testament is an apocalyptic genre, but all of it is written from an apocalyptic worldview. It was the default position of Judaism in Jesus' day. It was their way of viewing the world and making sense of what they saw, making sense of their time and place. And this way of viewing the world was born out of suffering and oppression. Because the apocalyptic worldview, it really was trying to address a problem. And the problem was that the promises of God were not matching up to the reality of their existence. You know what I mean? Okay, think about the people of Israel here. God had given these people a promise, right? Many of them, actually. They had all these scriptures full of promises to them. But really the overarching promise is that they would be God's unique people, that they would be promised here land to live in and a life that would flourish. That was really the big promise to them, that they would be settled in their land, protected by God, and have a life that flourishes because they were his people. And these were the big promises that the people of Israel believed. It made up their faith. The problem, though, was that reality, for quite some time, had not been matching up to the promises. Because in real life, the promises did not seem to be working so well. And for the people of Israel, they had been going through generations of oppression, suffering, and being conquered. First, they were conquered by this very powerful Assyrian Empire, and many were hauled off into captivity. Many were killed. Then they were conquered by Babylon, and many were hauled off into captivity. Many were killed. And then finally, the Persian Empire arose, and they were allowed to go home at that time, but they still owed tribute to Persia. And then finally, even though they go home and rebuild the temple, and they're in the land of Israel, they're under the thumb of the Seleucids, and then eventually under the thumb of Rome itself. And so even though they're home in their own homeland, they are not free. They suffered, and they were oppressed. They were crucified, and they died. And this created for the people of Israel a faith crisis. Because how can God be trusted if things don't turn out the way he promised? Now, have you ever been there? You've ever had a faith crisis where the things you'd always been taught to believe just didn't seem to match reality? Where reality just didn't match the promises of God that you were taught? And how can you go on believing in God when everything around you seems to be falling apart and God doesn't seem to be doing anything about it? You ever felt that way? I have. It's a faith crisis. And so enters the apocalyptic solution. And that is this idea that there's more to reality than what you can see. That there's more that's going on besides just the suffering around you. If you could just pull back the curtain, you would see that there is something going on, that God is doing something. It's just hidden behind the scenes. Now, God may be waiting for the right time, but you can be sure that one day, a day will come where God will finally put things right. And so the people of Israel called this the day of the Lord. There was a day that would come when finally the curtain would be pulled back, God would vanquish their enemies, all would be revealed, there would be an apocalypse where everyone would see everything that was happening behind the scenes all along, and that it would create this new time that you could live into. And the old time of suffering and oppression would be over, and the new time would begin. And so the apocalyptic worldview said, wait for it. Stay hopeful, stay alert, because things aren't all that they seem. The day of the Lord is coming. It will arrive. So wait for it. Be alert, be hopeful, and expect it to come at any moment. Now, with that as the background, the essence of Jesus' apocalypse in our reading today fits very nicely into that. Because Jesus is saying to stay hopeful and ready because things aren't all they seem to be. Things might be rough, but one day things will be set right. And that is really the basis of Jesus' apocalypse in our text today. Okay, now that's a lot of setup just to get to our text. So let's read our brief little text here today. It's part of the little apocalypse. We're picking up kind of partway through it, but you'll pick it up and you'll feel it. It feels apocalyptic. It's like something out of a Left Behind series or something, okay? But let's read it with all the information now that we've just learned in mind. Matthew 24, verse 36. But about that day and hour, no one knows. Neither the angels of heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. For as the days of Noah were, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. For as in the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing until the flood came and swept them all away. So too will be the coming of the Son of Man. There will be two will be in a field. One will be taken, and one will be left. 2 women will be grinding meal together. One will be taken, and one will be left. So keep awake, therefore, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known in what part of the night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and would not have let his house be broken into. Therefore you must also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. All right, well, that's a strange reading selection for Christmas, isn't it? I mean, it doesn't sound like the birth of Jesus. It sounds like something from a Left Behind series, right? One will be in a field, one will be taken, and one will be left behind, right? It's a strange way to start the Advent season, and yet it actually is pretty appropriate because it captures the waiting aspect of Advent. Now, each year we point this out that Advent, it really means arrival or coming. And it involves an awakening of our consciousness and a posture of alertness. It is our waiting moment where we are awaiting something to happen. And at Advent, we kind of do 2 things. We look back and we look forward. We look back to when the people of God were waiting for the Christ child to arrive. And we remember that first event where Christ arrives. But we also look forward to when Christ will return and put things right, the day of the Lord. And it's that anticipation that kind of marks this idea of Advent and fits very well with the apocalyptic worldview that Jesus lived in. So let's take a look at a few parts of Jesus' apocalypse here, because Jesus mentions a few things that might be useful to us as we begin our waiting in this Advent season. And the first thing that Jesus mentions is some bad things will likely happen. Jesus wants us to know that reality is not always easy. Sometimes things will happen that are pretty bad. And when those things happen, I mean, it's easy to lose hope, isn't it? I mean, when things start falling apart all around you and they don't match up to the promises that you'd hoped for, I mean, it's just easy to give up. Because sometimes people will be affected. Sometimes even people that you know. Now, Jesus in this section, he gives some apocalyptic examples of bad things that could happen. And one of them is in the past. He mentions Noah and the flood, right? Noah builds an ark, you remember, and gets his whole family in there. But there were other people who didn't make it on the ark, and they were swept away. They died, right? And being swept away, taken away, it's not a rapture or something here. This isn't good for them. It's calamity for them. They died. It's calamity for the world. And so Jesus says bad things have happened before. But notice then he moves on and says that some bad things could happen in the future too. He says 2 men will be working in a field. One will be taken or swept away, and one will be left behind. 2 women will be grinding flour. One will be taken or swept away, and one will be left behind. And I know some people have made a whole rapture theology out of these verses, right? That one day when Jesus comes back, he is going to take away, 2 men will be standing in the field, and he'll take one and rapture him up to heaven, and the other one will be left behind. But that's not really the idea here, that being left behind in this scenario is actually a good thing. Because this is probably talking about the Roman army. that they will fully invade and kidnap or kill some who are working in the field and some who are working in the mill. And to be taken or swept away isn't a good thing. It isn't going to heaven. It's falling prey to calamity like those in Noah's day. You don't want to be swept away. And so what Jesus is saying is, you'll look around and you'll see some tough stuff happening in life. And sometimes it will seem like God is not in control, that evil has the upper hand. You ever felt that way? I have. I mean, it's hard for me to think of any time entering the Christmas season that I felt more discouragement about the state of affairs than I do this year. I mean, it's been quite a year, hasn't it? And we've literally seen people disappeared off the streets by the forces of empire. I mean, it's easy for us to imagine a scenario where two men are working in a field and secret agents show up and one is taken and one escapes and is left behind. I feel like I understand this passage more this year than maybe ever before. And Jesus is just keeping it real with those listening to him. And he's telling them some bad things have happened in the past, and you'll see some bad things happen again. But his point is, don't give up. Some things will be tough, but don't give up. And really, that's the whole point of verse 42, where he says, keep awake, therefore, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. He even mentions it, the day of the Lord here, right? He says, the day of the Lord is coming. So don't give up. Don't quit. Don't fall asleep. Don't throw in the towel, because one day God will make things right. See, verse 42 isn't telling you that one day the day of the Lord will come and so God will disappear people. That's not what it's saying. It's telling you that the empire may make some people disappear, but one day it will come to an end. The day of the Lord will come and good will reign. And I love this phrase that he says here, keep awake. Stay awake. Don't give up. And why? Because there's hope. There's hope that the day of the Lord will come. Stay alert with hope. Keep awake. That's the phrase that Jesus uses here. And it's the phrase that the early church used often as well. To stay woke, or be woke, to stay awake. Now I know it's popular to be anti-woke today, right? I mean, the empire never wants you to be woke. But Jesus and his followers have been using the language of being woke or staying awake from the very beginning as an opposition to evil. And so the encouragement of Jesus here in his little apocalypse is stay awake and keep hoping. Corruption, violence, oppression, you'll see it. And when you do, and when it hits home, it has a way of wearing you down, doesn't it? At first it sparks some outrage, but then when nothing changes, you start to lose hope. You start to get numb to it. Despair sets in, and it's easier to sleep through it than to hope, to just numb it all out. But Jesus calls and says, stay awake. You know, Advent, it's a wake-up call. It's a reminder to open our eyes again and look for what might not be seen easily on the surface, but is possible and certain and already happening with God. There's something going on behind the scenes, and followers of Jesus are to always stay awake, alert to what God is already doing. We're in Advent season, and Advent is the beginning of the new year. So Happy New Year, everybody. Okay, that's where we are right now. It's a new year. The church calendar actually starts with Advent. There's a rhythm to the church calendar, things that it takes us through each year. And it starts with Advent. You know, like we don't get to the new year on our regular calendars, right, until January 1st. But the church calendar actually starts with the first Sunday of Advent, and it is the first day of the new year. And this is actually very subversive. The church refused to accept Caesar's calendar that organizes how we live and work and move. The church saw another reality. They had an apocalypse, and they saw a reality organized around the work of Christ, a vision of something else that was happening, a new orientation. And maybe today, you need a new orientation. Maybe you need to feel part of a new timeline. You see, the early church believed that with Jesus, what happened with Jesus created a new timeline, that a new timeline had started that existed in parallel with the old timeline of the empire, that they were kind of living in an alternative timeline. They still were a part of the old one because they couldn't really, it went on, right? There was all sorts of bad things that were still happening, and yet they were living on this parallel alternative timeline that had its own values and its own way of life. And they look forward to a day when finally that old timeline would end and only the new timeline would continue on. And that type of vision, that type of apocalypse is the same invitation for us today. To stay awake, to see that a new timeline is not only possible, it's already here. And so I pray that this Advent season, you would have an apocalypse. I pray that the curtain is pulled back and you see beyond the despair and frustration around you. I pray that you have eyes to see the little kindnesses happening all around you. I pray that you have eyes to see the beautiful moments and opportunities for generosity. I pray that you have eyes to notice who needs your comfort and your support. But I pray also that you have the eyes to see where others are gently supporting you. I pray that you have eyes and ears to hear the songs of celebration, even in the noise of all the chaos. I pray that you have eyes to see that not all is lost, but that hope is not just right around the corner, that it is already here, that Christ is here. And no matter what you go through, and some of it might be pretty tough, you are never alone. We're going to go to communion now. And communion is sort of a mini apocalypse each week, right? It's a reminder to us. It's a pulling back of the curtain where we see that no matter what forces in the world claim to have the greatest strength, that it's ultimately love and self-sacrifice that is the greatest power in all the universe. It is an unveiling for us, communion is, a reminder of God's great love for us and the power that exists in love, a power that can never be defeated. We want to be reminded of that today. We're going to take communion. There'll be a little moment here. You'll have an opportunity to take communion if you've got those elements on hand. And then afterwards, I'll come back and give us some announcements as we wrap up. But let me pray for us here. Hey, God, thanks so much for our opportunity to think and talk today. Thank you that you are at work behind the scenes. And when we look around, we have reason to be frustrated. We have reason to have despair. We have reason to feel like things are off course. And yet with eyes of faith, we trust that you, God, are still at work. We thank you that you are already at work, that you are already doing something. You've already invited us to live a new type of life that will continue on forever. We look forward to the day when your arrival happens once again and you make all things new. But in the meantime, we continue to live in your timeline of love, allowing this world to be transformed by your love through us. We love you, and it's in your name we pray. Amen. All right, let's go to communion, and I'll see you right afterwards.
We come to this table to remember Christ's sacrifice, the ultimate act of love for you and for me. We come to this table to declare the good news that Christ has died, Christ is risen, and Christ is coming again. We come to this table to be fed, to be nourished and sustained by this bread and this cup, and by the body and blood of Jesus. We come to this table to be united to one another and to remember that in Christ we are one body. We come to this table to look forward, to catch a glimpse, to get a brief snapshot of the eternal banquet that has been set before us. We come to this table to reflect and to lay down all the things that are holding us back and weighing us down at the feet of Jesus. We come to this table to remember it's not our works, but God's grace that truly saves us. We come to this table once again to renew our commitment to Jesus and to the pursuit of his kingdom. We come to this table as we are to be transformed and sent out as people marked by these elements, the body and blood of Jesus. Amen.
All right, let's send you on your way with a couple announcements here today. A few things you might want to know about as we are going through the next couple weeks or so. First of all, we do meet in person on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. We meet at the Zion Lutheran Church property, which is just south of downtown Everett. And if you are traveling on the freeway, it's a very easy on-off, close on-off the exit there on the 41st Street exit. We'd love to have you join us at any time. It's great that you want to connect here online. It's fantastic. But I'll say the real treasure of this group is the people. And so if you have a chance to join us in person, I think you would probably enjoy that as well. If you want to stay up to date with things that are happening, you can follow us on the socials. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. We are at The Gathering Everett, and we post announcements and things that are happening with our group there. If you would like to follow any of those accounts, you can stay up to date with some of that. Another way to stay up to date with information is to join our email newsletter. We send this out pretty regularly, and if you're not already on the distribution list, you can drop us a message on Facebook with your name and email, or you can drop me a line. My email's on the screen there, and just say, hey, add me to the distribution list, and we would be happy to do that. Now, the real main announcement is today we are doing a fun thing called Carols with Cookies. We're going to be meeting at the building at 5 p.m. tonight, and we are going to have some holiday cookies, and we're going to gather around the piano and the organ a little bit and just sing some Christmas carols together. We'll probably do that for a half an hour or so, just be a short kind of time together. Very informal, nothing formal about it. We'll just be hanging out together, singing some songs. We're going to meet at 4 p.m. for those who are interested to help do some holiday decorating around the building, putting up some of the trees and those type of things. So if you want to get there at 4 and help us decorate, that's great. Or you can show up at 5, things will already be decorated, and you can just sing some carols with us and kind of kick off the holiday season. We'd love to have you join us for that. Then finally, if you want to donate, you can do that online. You can go to our website at everettgathering.com/donate, or you can scan the little QR code there on the screen, and you can set up a one-time gift or a recurring gift. And we want to say thank you to those of you who have been donating so generously to this community. Okay, Christmas Eve service, we'll get to that next week. That'll be at 5 p.m. on Christmas Eve, and so we'll give you some more details about that as we go along. There's a lot going on in December, obviously, and I'm sure you're very busy, and everybody's calendar is very busy, and so we'll give you some of those details so that you can get those big rocks in place so that you're ready for that. Okay, God bless you. Hope you have a really good week, and we look forward to seeing you next week right here. Okay, take care. God bless. Bye.